Whilst I was at Gamescom, I got the opportunity to interview Aleks Grøndal. He's the executive producer for the Battlefield franchise, and of course we were talking about Battlefield 5. Now, I didn't get a lot of time to ask all of the questions that I wanted to ask him, but I think I asked a lot of questions that you guys want to hear answers to. So I hope you enjoy this interview. I actually conducted a previous one at EA Play with Daniel Berlin. He's another DICE developer. So if you missed that one, you might want to check that one out too. But for now, I hope you learned something new about Battlefield 5 from Aleks.
Okay, so we're here at Gamescom 2018 to play Battlefield 5, but we're also here to talk to Aleks Grøndal today. Now, Aleks, for people at home, what's your role at DICE? What do you do for the Battlefield franchise? If you just give us like a quick description of what it is that you do day to day.
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So what I do day to day is I try to take a look at where the whole franchise is going in the long term, thinking about where we are and where we need to go. So that means a lot of playing games and a lot of talking to a lot of people, including people such as yourself, finding out where we are good, what we need to improve on, and that sort of stuff. So it's high and low, I would say. But it's such a franchise that I've been, playing and being a part of now for 15 years. So I feel like I'm right where I'm supposed to be.
So I think I'll start off with some of the new stuff that we're seeing at Gamescom. Obviously, we've got a brand new map, Rotterdam. It's urban map, so I think pretty much my favorite kind of Battlefield map, mixes everything together. And we're seeing a lot of improvements from closed alpha, stuff that you guys have worked on behind the scenes as well. If you could pick out something from the builds that we've got, some of the features that are in the game, what is it that you would say is one of the biggest steps forward from closed alpha that you've seen so far from the team?
So, as you know, we had 2 closed alphas. And the idea with that is try to get some feedback from, both from the first alpha and the second alpha, and we can place them next to each other and figure out, okay, what things did we do well in the first alpha, and what things did we do well in the second alpha, and then try to present the results to you in the upcoming open beta build, and also the build that you'll be playing here on Gamescom today. So we heard you loud and clear. I think there was some community sentiment around a few things, but there's a couple of takeaways that I've gathered so far. And again, these are all takeaways, so I can't guarantee you if you will see them all, but I mean, these are the things that we are working on. But the time to kill, for instance, was a huge debate. Like, people seem to like the first one better than the last one. So with the build that you're playing here today, it's probably closer time to kill to the first one than the second one. However, some of the weapon balance stuff that we did in the second one, like for instance for the sniper rifle and stuff like that, will also be in this one. So it's a combination of both, I would say, and hopefully it's a combination of the things that people really want to see. And on top of that, I'd see there's a couple of other takeaways as well that I just want to mention. I know there's been some questions around, visibility of soldiers, and that's kind of what the next step would be that we're working on now. Around some of the noise problem that people have been having, and some of the clear communication around who my friends are and whatnot. So those are the kind of things we're working on in the future as well, so to bring that into clarification. So, but again, even with the stuff that we put out in the open beta is still up for change, and I think as developers we really want to make sure that we get the balance right. And as you know, you've been playing this game for quite some time, Westie, or at least the franchise for quite some time. Yeah. You know that we tend to balance the games over a long period of time, and also do some dramatic changes along the way if we feel like we're not on the right path, like we've done previously. And what I want to say with that is that I think that with this one, it's even more important that we are going to make big changes down the line. Not changes that we have in plan right now, but when we see the game go live, we want to be able to do the right changes to the game to make sure that it lives on as healthy as possible for a long time, and I think that is kind of what the future of what that looks like kind of excites me, because we can only push as much into the box as we can put into the box now, but I think what's exciting to me is what we can do to further increase its potential and further increase its what it can be, because I believe it can be tremendously much more over time.
Something I personally noticed, I've only I jumped in, even though I shouldn't have, into the capture session this morning. There was a seat free. Something I really noticed on this map in particular is the fortification system. And in the closed alpha, a lot of people got to experiment with that, see what it actually does, kind of get a feel for where some of the locations are on the map. Didn't realize until like the last day of closed alpha 2 you could build trenches, which was really, really cool. But I've noticed on this map there seems to be like even more than you had on Arctic Fjord or Narvik. Is it something that you guys looked at in closed alpha and realized, okay, this is our new feature, so we're going to see how it plays? Did you look to try and expand it the way that you have, or was that just a natural progression through your development process?
So for Fortifications, I think the grand idea behind Fortifications was for you to be able to make tactical choices around, do I want to try to build up a fortification here, or do I try to flank something or over there? And I think we need to provide you with as many options as possible so the players can really feel that they're in control of creating these fortifications and using them to their advantage. You know, Battlefield is kind of like a thinking on your feet type game, I suppose. And I like to be creative. I like you can feel creative inside of solving a problem in Battlefield. And I was like, I would like you to stand in front of a situation and say like, hey, how am I going to solve this? And then be able to both use destruction, fortification, some weapon or ability. All of these are possible tools for you. And it should feel like they are. And I think that's the goal. When it comes down to the feedback that we received from the closed alpha, I think it's clear to say that I think people want more of it. And I think they want perhaps an easier access to it and stuff like that. So I see it more as a natural progression for my closed alpha. And I think, again, this is step one, right? And we need to keep pushing forward.
I think specifically I noticed one of the fortifications, if you blow up one of the canal bridges, you can rebuild it completely out of fortifications, which was really cool. I really appreciated that, because I thought blowing it up, you'd just be like, oh, I'm cutting off a tank route. But no, if you spend another minute when there's no one else around, you can be like, no, I'll put this back so that our tank can get across. I also noticed at the far back of the map, there was like there was a roadway, and you could build almost a blockade across the entire road made out of sandbags and tank traps, which was really cool. That's something that we didn't quite see in the closed alpha, because they were more, I would say they obviously were there for covering reasons, and they sort of changed the flow of different pathways, but in this iteration it seems some of them are literally put in place to stop things happening and then restart them later down the line. Is that something you will try and do more of in the full game with the fortification system, or will it always be something a little bit more passive, would you say?
I think, regards to Rotterdam, I have to keep in mind that Rotterdam is a kind of linear map in the sense that it has lines that you kind of follow. Yeah. So it's perhaps more natural to think about, what do I want to create here? I want to create something to stop people from coming to my objective or something. So I think in this case they put them there for you to feel like you're fortifying a position using like between a street or something like that. So I think that's and I think that works well in that type of map. In an open map, perhaps that doesn't work as well. Perhaps you need to think about it slightly differently. And the way that we can answer that question, I think, is like, okay, so if I was a soldier on this map, what would be interesting tactical choice for me to do? Like, do I build a trench or do I build a wall? And what is the different reasons between why I would do this or that? And same thing with that, like, do I fill up the street with stuff, or do I just stop people from being able to come at me because I'm in a trench or something like that? I think that's kind of more a map design choice at the end of the day.
I want to dive into a couple of other things, maybe slightly more contentious issues that have surrounded the game. The choice of customization that you've had throughout, from the very start, from the reveal up until the point now. I think in my eyes, I've seen a change in presentation of it, and perhaps it was a misrepresentation of what the game was going to look like originally, comparison to what we've got now. So in the reveal, we saw a very sort of flamboyant trailer with lots of different options that players could have, and I think lots of people jumped to the conclusion that that's what the game will look like. And then the most recent trailer, which was the Gamescom trailer, I would say more scaled that back and perhaps was in a setting that people kind of expected from World War II as well. Is what we're seeing in this build now with Rotterdam on the stage floor and what's coming up in the beta, in that more, I wouldn't say bland, but it was perhaps a more believable look to World War II. Is that sort of the baseline, and will grow to something else with more options down the line, where we then look to that reveal trailer and see some rather outlandish stuff later down the line, but we'll start at this point? Is that how it works?
I think it's when it comes to the customization, we haven't built it all, and we need to start somewhere. And I think you see what the build has today, as what we have currently in production. It's the stuff that we have today. At the end of the day, we want to make sure that people have the opportunity to really feel like they can customize their characters. And I mean, if you really want to look like, a real World War II soldier and be all into that, sure, that's great. We will do that for you. But if you want to look slightly different and be a bit more flamboyant, I think there's some areas where we can have that as well. So I think it's a balance, like it's a taste act where we need to figure out where the balance lies, and that is a conversation that we should be having with our players, and like, what do you feel like we need to do? So it's difficult to place them next to each other and say which one is right, which one is wrong. I'm saying is that play the game, and that's where we put in all the stuff, right? And that's where we the customization options that we have today. That's how it's currently looking.
Okay, great. So the key word there is it's your choice. It's basically sort of do what you want. So you can be like a very standard-looking World War II soldier, or you can switch out the top half for something a little bit more extravagant if you wanted to.
And so maybe add to that, I think if you take a look at all the war movies that are out there, and I think that's where most of this stuff comes from, there's opportunities for some really cool stuff. I think that it's a balance thing again. But I think there's some really cool choices. If you want to look very different, I think you should be allowed to do that. This game is about building your company, building your soldiers up, and making them be yours. And I think that's important for you to be able to make choices that make them feel like they're yours.
I want to move on to a couple of other things. I've noticed that with the grand operations thing and your live service model, that the direction of the game is going to be driven by your story through World War II and different things like that. Now, that seems to be controlled quite heavily by you guys over at the studio and what direction you want to go in. So ultimately, it's the team that makes the decision. I think certain parts of the community are a little bit worried that they won't have ways to fine-tune the experience for themselves and not follow what you guys want, but create something a little bit different. And this is going down the route of rental servers or even options within the game to turn things on and off and create that kind of stuff. Are you allowed to talk about anything to do with that at the moment, or is it something that you still can't talk about?
I'm sorry, that's not something we're talking about today, I'm afraid.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. Going past open beta, you guys have now announced that it's from the 4th, which is early access, or the 6th, up until, I don't think you've even announced when it stops. You guys have a really small window after that open beta before your game launches. And I think the game launches a little bit earlier on this year because of the multiple waves of the waves of release and stuff like that. So when you guys have the open beta, you've got the build that I've been playing here is quite smooth. So a lot of it is working as intended. There are a couple of hitches here and there. But what's it like in the studio for you guys in those like manic 3.5 weeks after an open beta? Is it prioritization, or is it like get as many smaller things done, or is it like do we focus on one big thing, or how does that really look? And who kind of decides what gets done and what doesn't?
What a great question. It's a time period that normally goes quite fast and is really hectic, and I have fond memories of it that I don't remember all of. Well, that's kind of game development. But no, listen. Of course, feedback from the open beta, we can start seeing some sort of major takeaways from the open beta quite early. We did this for Battlefield 1, we did it for previous Battlefield games as well. So we see some, and then we start seeing, okay, what is possible for us to do for launch day? And what is possible for us to do a week after launch, or a week after that, and a week after that. So it becomes, how much work is it? What can we do at this point in time? So it's very much a balance act compared to all the other issues we are working on, and there's other bugs that needs to be prioritized compared to this and all that sort of stuff. But we try to make a real effort to make sure that we can take some feedback from it. But I think again it's important for us to remember that when the game goes live, it's like a constant open beta, right? And I think all the feedback that comes in is stuff that we will constantly try to improve and do more of, and do less of. And I think you as a community, which is what I love working on this franchise, is very vocal about some stuff. And sometimes you don't agree with each other, sometimes you do agree, but you're at least very vocal about the stuff that you think. And I really enjoy that. And it makes it easier for us to listen to you guys and make choices. And sometimes, we do wrong, and sometimes we do right. But it's part of the process, I think. So I guess if there's an underlying question there which you ask, it's like, how much can you expect fixed? I would say quite a lot. Because from when we branched off the open beta build to when this game launches, there's quite a few more weeks than just the 3 weeks. So I mean, it's not like the game stops. You know, when we branched this off, we didn't stop working on it and wait for you guys to tell us what it is. So there's many weeks and there's many people working on it. So there's lots of stuff, and sometimes we can't. There was fixes we wanted to have in open beta that we couldn't bring over because of risk, this and that. So those are the type of discussions we're having. So I would say that, you know, we're able to do quite a lot. Not everything, but you know, hopefully the most important things. And it's busy. It's busy as hell. It's a tough period. Yeah, what can I say? It is what it is. It needs to get done.
I can imagine it being quite a frantic sort of month or so as you guys try and rush around to fix everything that's possible. Of course, you can't fix everything, and even an open beta might not expose potential other issues or balancing things that aren't included. So, no, I think it's going to be interesting. I mean, having sat and played this build today, it's really smooth playing it, and there are lots of things in there that weren't in the closed alpha that I appreciate, which is awesome. I did see the new down but not out, or man down phase, that you guys have added a second option to that screen. Was that in response to community feedback from the alpha?
Yeah, so I don't know exactly how the discussions went with the team, but I would guess that would be the case. But I mean, this is something that we've been trying out a couple of different solutions internally. I think it was important for us to get them tested out with the community as well. So hopefully you think this is a step in the right direction.
I think a lot of people were opposed originally to Battlefield 1's skip revive button. But I think over the course of 2 years, it became a reflex for a lot of people to just hit that button if there's no medic around. So the fact that you've now got the option to hold on or bleed out, I think is really good, especially because you can see where the medics are in relation to you. So, yeah, I think having both options there will be helpful. It'd be interesting, like, as a statistic, whether you guys could track it to see how many people hit skip immediately and how many people hold on immediately. That would be really cool to see, just to see the mindset of the entire community. That would be awesome. I think I'm near enough done here. I mean, a lot of what is in the Rotterdam build will be in the closed alpha. Is this the open beta build? Is this like a Gamescom build that's slightly different?
Yeah, so it's close to the open beta build. It contains a lot of the same content. So you have the Rotterdam on Conquest. It also contains Arctic Fjord on the Conquest and on the Grand Operations. But this particular build doesn't contain all the company stuff that we have and some Tides of War things that we're going to test out. So you get to test out some of the progression systems when the open beta come. That is the key difference. And there's a couple of other smaller details, but all in, and some more bug fixes potentially and stuff like that. But all in all, it's virtually the same, I would say. Yeah.
I just want to finish off with a couple of really small questions. First of all, what would you say of all the Battlefield games you've ever played? I'm assuming you've played all of them. Which one's your favorite and why? Why is it your favorite?
Battlefield 1942. And I got this question many times, and I tell you why. It's very simple. When I saw that trailer from 1942, when people jumping out of an air transport plane, and people told me that these were players jumping out, I fell in love immediately. So since the demo of 1942, I've been a huge fan of the franchise. I guess, everyone has a game when you first fall in love with it, and you can't kind of shake away that. And I have many other favorite games in the franchise after that, but, you asked the one, and I guess this is the one for me.
Do you put pineapple on pizza or not?
Westie, you're going to make me hated online. Yeah, no, I do. I'm a sinner. I eat pineapple on pizza, and I am now a little bit ashamed of it.
Don't be ashamed. Just open Reddit tomorrow, and I'm sure there's plenty on there for you to read. And just finally, from Battlefield 5, of what we've seen so far, what is it that you're most excited about for the game? Once it goes out there to everybody, so forget open beta, you've got to release day. What is it that you're going to look to from everyone that's playing the game? Like, I'm going to try and look for people talking about something. What is that for you?
Perhaps not the answer you wanted, but I am mostly excited about what we can do with this game down the line together. I mean, I'm really excited about that. Of all the opportunities, just imagine the reimaginations of the 1942 maps we could do. Just imagine all the places we could go that... I'm not confirming anything, by the way. I'm just saying... all I'm saying is that I think there's so much potential in where this game could go. and I'm excited about actually bringing that to fruition. Shipping something in its box is always hard, and it always comes with a bunch of restrictions. But once we actually have the game live, there's so much more we can do with it, and that's actually, perhaps boringly, what I find the most exciting.
No, okay, that's awesome. Well, thanks very much for talking to me today. I really appreciate your answers, and hope everyone at home is satisfied with the questions that I asked. And I hope I get the opportunity again, maybe before launch, maybe after launch, to have another sit down with you or another one of the developers and maybe have a bit more of a chat. So thank you very much.